morning, everybody. Glad to see y'all again. Glad we'll be back together. I missed y'all last week, but this week we're coming to you live from Folly Beach, South Carolina. It's one of my favorite places to be, is on the ocean, and so I love being out here. I just love it. I look forward to it all week, and a lot of us do when you go on vacation, just to get in the ocean and play. And for my family, that's something we love to do. We love to get in the water. We love to go out there and surf and bodyboard and swim, and we do it without even thinking about it. We just enjoy being out in the ocean. But for a lot of people, the ocean's a scary place. It's the unknown of what's around them. It's the power of the ocean itself. It's the stories they hear of riptides and things that can happen in the ocean. And I can tell you, the ocean is a scary place, and it can be a dangerous place. But for us, it's just something we love to do. But a lot of people, it scares. And it scares them because if you walk down the beach, you look down, I'm sure you can find some shark's teeth. So there's one thing I'll guarantee you: when you get in the ocean, there's sharks in the ocean. I can also tell you there's jellyfish in the ocean and various other things. But for us, we don't even think about it. But it does scare a lot of people. So we looked throughout the Bible and we started to think about stories of where the ocean or the sea or the lake played an important part in Jesus' teachings. And in many occasions, he used this ocean or the sea as his way to demonstrate faith. And that's what today's lesson's about, is to have faith. Because every time we get into the ocean, whether we think about it or not, we have faith that everything's going to be okay. All right, so what is faith? How do we describe it? If somebody asks you what is faith, you can tell them, hey, here's what it is. Well, an example of faith would be sit in a chair. When you go to sit in a chair, you know, a beach chair down here on the ocean, you know that when you sit down, that more than likely it's going to hold you when you sit in it. It's not going to fall, it's not going to break. That's faith. You don't even think about stuff like that. You have faith when you get in your car is going to start. Those are things you don't think about, but faith in a situation where things get really tough is something that's a lot more difficult. I've always said faith is an easy word to spell. It's a 5-letter word. It's an easy word to say. But it's easier to lose it, especially when things get tough. We forget that there's faith out there, that God's in control, that Jesus has got this. He has our faith. God's got our faith. And he always has us in his mind. Now, the Bible defines faith in Hebrews as something that says basically it's assurance of what has not been seen. It's knowing that something's going to happen without having to have proof of it. And that's very difficult for a lot of people. They want to be able to see it. They want to be able to touch it. They want to know that everything's going to be okay right then. But Jesus understood that throughout his teaching and throughout his disciples' lives, that they're going to have faith that the outcome is the way Jesus said it was going to be, or they're just not going to be able to make it. In the book of John, it states that without faith, the Christian life cannot be what God intends it to be. I want to let that sink in for a minute. It says, without faith, that your walk as a Christian cannot be what God wants it to be. And what that means is we have to be able to rely on God when things get really tough. We're having a bad day, when the unknown sets in, we try to wade out into situations we've never been in before. And we just got to have faith that God has got this. And that's kind of what we've been talking about as we go through all of our lessons. So, what Jesus did is he used what these guys knew better than anything, his disciples, and that's the water, to absolutely describe to them what faith looks like. And on the first occasion, what happened was, in the book of Matthew, is that Jesus is in town, and he's had a lot of people come up to him. He's starting to heal people who are sick. He's starting to heal people that have demon possessions, and he spends a lot of time doing this. And so at the end of this, he tells his disciples, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get in the boat. We're going to go across the lake. Getting a little chaotic over here. Things are getting a little crazy, so we're going to go across the lake and continue our teachings over there. So they get in the boat. Water's perfectly calm. If you look at our ocean today, it's perfectly calm. Yesterday was a little rough. Today, it's beautiful. Beautiful and calm. The water was calm. Now, what we know about this area is that these storms can pop up at any second. It can be beautiful one minute, storm in the next. Kind of like if you've ever been on Watauga Lake, it can be that way. It can be beautifully sunny downtown, and all of a sudden with the mountains and the water, these storms just pop up, and they're pretty violent storms sometimes. And that's what happened this day. The disciples are on their boat. Jesus is with them. and a storm starts to rage in the water. So the storm's raging. The disciples look around and where's Jesus? Jesus was asleep. And he was at the end of the boat asleep, probably because he was tired. It shows sort of his human side, but he's asleep. And they start to panic because they know the water. They know the power of the water. They've heard the stories of boats sinking and people dying. Yet they're with Jesus. They've lost all faith. They've lost everything, thinking this boat's going to sink and we're going down. So they start to panic as the water comes over the sides and it starts to fill the boat. They run and frantically find Jesus. And they find him asleep, and they finally wake him up. And Jesus, why are you asleep? We need help. We need help. This boat is about to sink. And Jesus' response is very interesting. He doesn't panic. He doesn't jump up and start to yell and shout and all this thing. He looks at him and he says, why are you afraid? You have little faith. And what Jesus was trying to tell them is look, when things get tough in your life as a disciple, when you go on, you spread my word after I'm gone, things are going to get really difficult. Things are not going to be the way you want them to be. Don't panic. The boat's not going to sink. Have faith that God's got this. Well, the disciples quickly forget that story because we fast forward a little bit. Jesus and the disciples have first fed the 5,000 men, which we know it's more than 5,000 people. That's just the men. So Jesus feeds them the loaves of bread and the fish. We know that story. So they feed the 5,000 and they see that Jesus has done this on faith. Remember, there wasn't enough food. There are all these people, and the disciples do what they do best because they're just like us, panic. We can't feed all these people. They're going to go crazy. And Jesus, again, shows them, you just have to have faith in me. Well, here's the thing about faith. I told you it's easy to spell, easy to say, but it's easier to forget. Right after that, they get on a boat. Jesus tells the disciples, I want you to go ahead and go across the lake, and I'll be over there in a minute. Well, when you really think of that story in the simplest form is, there's one boat, a bunch of disciples, and Jesus is coming next. I don't know what they thought he was going to do, but anyway, that's part of the story that kind of amazes me is we have one boat, right? And so the disciples get on it, they're heading across the lake, and what happens? The storm starts to rage again. And they start to do what? Panic. Same thing they've done before. And they even start to tell Jesus, why'd you send us out here in this mess? We're in the middle of the worst storm we've ever been in. Our life is chaos. We're about to die. We have no control over this. And in the midst of that storm, what do they see? Jesus. Jesus comes walking on the water. As he comes through the clouds, through the rain, through the waves, Jesus comes walking on the water. And they can't believe what they've seen, what they see. They think it's a ghost. So much that Peter asked Jesus, if it's really you, then let me walk towards you. So Peter hops out of the boat, starts to walk towards Jesus. But again, how quickly does Peter's faith fade? In an instant, he realizes that he's doing something that he didn't think he could do. He thought was impossible. Things that anybody would think was impossible. And he loses faith. And he falls straight through the water, down into the water. As Jesus picks him up, puts him back on top of the water, he tells Peter, why do you have such little faith? Why can't you trust that I've got this? In the weirdness, in the chaos, I've got it. In that part of our life, we have to realize that Jesus has got this. And the thing about it is, though, is that we also got to have faith that Jesus is going to give us a different outcome than what we hope for. It doesn't always mean that we have faith that we get what we want. It just means we have faith that Jesus has this. And we look at this story, especially the story of when the boat is starting to sink and Jesus is asleep. It really tells us how Jesus deals with our everyday life. And what happens is, when Jesus wakes up, he looks out there, and the Bible says he rebukes the wind and talks to the waves. The disciples lost what the problem was. They thought it was the waves and the water that was causing the chaos and them about to sink. But Jesus knew what the problem was in their life at that moment. They couldn't see it. That's the wind. The wind was causing the problems. So Jesus understood the problem. And it was the wind. The wind was causing the problem. And that's what Jesus got out of their life at that moment that caused the chaos to go away. He understands what our problems are. You're having a bad day in class, you're having a bad day with your friends, you're having a bad day at home with your parents, you're having a bad day at work when you start to work. You may think the problem is one thing, but Jesus knows what the problem is. And with faith, he can fix it. But you gotta have faith. And again, I'm telling you, every time we meet with Jesus, these are good stories, right? Everything works out the way it's supposed to. But not every encounter of faith with Jesus is happy. And that means that Jesus has sometimes got a different plan for things than you ever wanted to have happen. And that's what he wanted to demonstrate to his disciples, is look, your life from this point forward is going to be full of storms, full of chaos, full of waves, and you feel like you're going to drown. But have faith that I've got this. Because the Bible tells us all things work for good, right? It says for God's will, everything works for good. So when you're having a bad day, understand you may have to weather the storm. You may have to have the waves come crashing over your boat. But if you will do what they did, call on Jesus, go to him, and ask him to help, and have faith that he can help, you can get through that situation. I want you to take that with you as you go through your day and you go through school. And understand that I want you to have faith. Easy to spell, easy to say, but easier to lose. And God has got your faith. I want to end you with this. One of the things we like to do is surf. So we're down here at the local surf shop, and interesting picture I found posted on the wall. And that is, I always said that if Jesus was here right now, that Jesus would surf. He'd have to surf. And what a beautiful creation he's made out here. What awesome waves there are today. Jesus would surf, there's no question. Well, I found a picture that proves my point. Local surf shop, Jesus and his dad are surfing. The picture's coming up. Hope y'all have a good day. Love y'all. Continue to wash your hands. Hopefully we'll be back together sometime. See ya. Bye.